So today we had this Briggs Stratton snowblower engine come in that we've decided is going to be the power plant for the shopping go-kart. And so far I really haven't done much to it except take it apart. That's the exhaust sitting right over there, and the fuel tank right over here. I took both of those pieces off, and just the plastic, a lot of the plastic cover pieces. And we've got the thing decently torn down, and I think we're going to try to figure out how we're going to work throttle linkage and either bypassing or removing the governor. Alright, so we got the crankcase opened up here, and our next step is going to be removing the governor. So this little gear up in here with flyweights to control the RPM when this thing's being used as a snowblower, but we don't want a constant RPM for a go-kart, so we got to get that out of the way to make room for our throttle. So just going about figuring out how to get that off now, starting by loosening this up here, and then trying to figure out how to, here, got that bolt off, how to figure out how to get this shaft out of the way so that we can get back to the gear there. So that's what we're up to. All right, so we got the governor arm out. There's your governor arm. But we got the gear still in there, and now we've got to figure out, I don't know, if we're going to take the gear out or just leave it floating in there, because it's not connected to the governor arm anymore, so it's not going to control how fast the engine's running, but I don't know. Ain't doing any good in there, but it's being kind of a pain to get out. So we're thinking about using the governor arm for either our throttle return spring, or I think for our throttle return spring, and possibly working our throttle cable too with it. So we need the top of this shaft that goes into this hole right here that the governor arm sits on top of. But we don't want the bottom of this governor arm with the paddle end to be flapping around inside the crankcase. So we're gonna cut it off with the bolt cutters right about here and just have it there as the anchor point for the governor arm. It's a thing. Alright, so we decided that we are going to just leave the governor gear in it. We'd have to take like the whole bottom end of the engine to get out to get to it. And yeah, it's just not that big of a deal. We chopped the governor arm off, so it's not going to interact with that gear anymore, so it should not be an issue. All right, just to try to help everything go back together nicely, made sure to oil up the crankshaft here and the end of the camshaft, and oiled up the bearings in the center of the crankcase cover too, and all around the outer gasket. And now it's time to put this thing back on there. Alright, needed two hands to do it, but I got the crankcase cover back on, and now just got to put the bolts back in and torque them down, and that'll be the governor removal completed. So yeah, sweet. So we got the crankcase cover tightened down, and now I'm trying to figure out throttle return spring. Alright, so personally, the three main steps that I believe need to be taken when you're trying to repurpose a motor for a go-kart are, well, first of all, either bypassing or removing the governor, or basically just not having the governor interfere with how your engine is functioning anymore. Because you don't want a constant RPM. You don't want it to be constantly trying to drag you back down to a speed. You want to be able to rev the thing out. So we've taken care of that part. And then the other steps are figuring out how you're going to mount your throttle cable and figuring out how you're going to do a throttle return spring. Because you want your throttle to automatically snap back to idle when you let off the pedal. So you need a return spring for that. But first we got this piece here, which I think sits right about there, bolts in there onto that bolt hole, and then I think this bolt goes to this bolt hole here. We have this little bracket here, which had a nice little hole there that I just drilled out a little more so that the throttle cable goes to there. And I think our throttle cable is going to run through this bottom hole here, and then from that hole it'll then pull on this side of the governor arm to pull the throttle open that way. And then the other part that we need is the return spring. So we're using the governor arm again for the return spring. We're going to hook it there. And I'm thinking this end of the spring here, I'm going to try to anchor behind this bolt here so that you've got throttle open, and then when the spring pulls, it'll pull the throttle closed like that by, pulling on the governor arm this way. So open, closed, open, closed. So that's what I'm going to try to do now. Alright, so we got it loose. Then we're going to tuck this end of the spring around. Oh, come on. There we go. See, we got it tucked around the bolt there. So it's pulling on it. And we'll see if that's strong enough of a return spring. I don't know. We might need to find a stronger spring, but we'll try that for now. And just tighten the bolt back down. And there we go. Return spring. Sweet. All right, we got the engine mostly put back together, as put together as it's going to get for a while. And now it's time to fire the thing back up.
A few moments later.